Okay, so here's epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue starts on page 72. Okay, so um, epithelial tissue are really tightly packed together. Okay, so they're really close together. There's not any space in between them, so we don't talk about ground substance in between them. They line body cavities, they cover your body surface, they're found in glands like your salivary glands. Um, they're always on this thing called a basement membrane, so they're layered on the basement membrane, and then I wish I could draw you a picture on this. I wonder, maybe I can. Let me try. Let's see. This will be interesting, guys. Okay, so if I insert, let's see. Like if I put a line down here, okay, this blue line that I'm putting on here, that's the basement membrane. And then if I insert the cells, so let's make these guys the cells are always going to sit on the basement membrane. So there's a cell. Okay, there's another cell. Okay, and they're all tightly packed together on here. Does that kind of make more sense? We're flying by the seat of our pants. But that's it. So the cells would be all tightly packed together on there. And that bottom thing is the basement membrane. Okay. The way we identify and name epithelial tissue is what the cell layers look like, the shape of them. Okay. There's another one that I don't know if our book talks about. It's called transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium is one that's going to stretch. Okay. So the way that we name these is the number of cell layers, how many layers they have. So if we have one layer of cells, like this little picture I drew right here, okay, it's called simple. Simple is one layer of cells. If it has more than one layer of cells, it's called stratified. So stratified would be stacked layers. Okay, pseudo-stratified looks like it might be stratified, but it really isn't. It's a poser. Okay, it only has one layer. So simple's one layer, stratified's more than one layer, and then pseudo-stratified, it looks like it could be stratified, but it's not. The shape of the cell, so we have some that are cube-shaped, some that are columnar, so they're like long rectangles, and some that are squamous. Squamous cells are flat. They look like little eggs, like a fried egg. Okay, so what does epithelial tissue look like? So here we go. So here's simple squamous tissue. It's these cells. If you ever, I don't know if you remember school when you're little and you took a toothpick and you scraped the inside of your cheek and you put it on a microscope slide and you looked at it under the microscope, you were seeing squamous cells, and they were probably stratified squamous cells. But they look like this, okay? These are stained with the stain so that they look pink. Okay, they're usually clear. Okay, but here they are. Okay, and I want you to notice that these guys are really thin. Okay, so they're going to be in places where we need diffusion to occur quickly. So we have them in our lungs and in our blood vessels where we need to move oxygen around. Okay, simple cuboidal are little squares. See the squares? Okay, these are the cells. And in the cells, this is the nucleus inside the cell. Okay, so they make tubes. So if you've rolled these out, you just have a sheet like this. But if you rolled them up in a tube, this is what they look like. Okay, so we'd have those in our kidneys. Sometimes in our glands like thyroid gland and stuff like that. Okay, then down here, this is a simple columnar. Okay, simple columnars in our intestines, our small intestines. It's going to be important in absorbing food. Okay, we have these little ones called pseudo-stratified columnar. Okay, so they look like if you look at this at first glance, it looks like there should be more than one layer, but there really is. If you take your time and you look at it, there is only one layer. Okay, so these ones actually have little hairs on them, and the hairs are called cilia. Okay, and what they do, they're found in your trachea, so in your windpipe. And what they're going to do is they're going to sweep debris out. Okay, so that, like when you inhale chalk dust or something like that, instead of it going down into your lungs, it gets caught in these little cilia and they sweep the debris out. Okay, now stratified squamous, okay, is just lots of layers of these cells. Okay, so stratified means more than one layer, and squamous cells are I call them like fried eggs, and you just have lots of layers. You have those in places where there's going to be friction, okay, because you would want, if you need a layer gets swept off, okay, there's another layer underneath to protect it. So we usually have those in openings in our body. Okay, so in general, the function of epithelial tissue is to secrete, absorb, and protect. So those are the three things that the epithelial system really does. Is it secretes fluid, okay? It absorbs nutrients, and it protects. It provides a layer of protection. It's going to line the internal organs, and it's also going to line the outside of your body. So anywhere where there's an opening in your body, you're going to have epithelial tissue. Okay, now the next part of this chapter is on skin. Okay, so let's look at the skin. Okay, so skin is the integumentary system, and it's pretty easy. It's like one of the easiest systems that we cover. Integumentary, it covers the skin, the accessory organs that go along with the skin, like your hair, your nails, and like sweat glands. Okay, your skin has two main regions, which are called the epidermis and the dermis. Okay, anytime you see this epi, it means it's to the outer layer, it's outside of it. Under the skin, there's a subcutaneous layer. Okay, it's between the dermis and the internal organs, so that's where fat's stored. So the subcu, if you've ever heard about giving someone a shot subcutaneously, you're going through the epidermis, through the dermis, and into this layer. And that's where the fat is. And there's going to be lots of blood vessels there. I'll show you a picture in a second. The skin's really important for maintaining homeostasis. So it's going to help us regulate our body temperature. It's going to help us keep water in. It's going to help protect us from pathogens that might get on our skin. It just keeps us kind of even and equal. Okay, so homeostasis means like as an equal environment where everything is just kind of staying the same. Okay, so, I just went over these, but let's go over them again. So, functions of the integumentary system. So, our skin protects us from physical trauma. Okay, so think about all the little cuts that you get. So, you're really protecting the inside of your body by having your skin on the outside. Your skin is actually really dry, so it's not a good place for bacteria to grow. So, it protects us from pathogens, and it keeps the water that's inside our body inside, and we don't lose it. We don't get dehydrated really fast. It's also going to help regulate our body temperature. Okay, there's lots of receptors in our skin that helps us know where we are, what's going on. Like if you feel an ant crawl up your arm, okay, that's because of receptors in our skin. Our skin also is involved in the role of making vitamin D and melanin. And melanin's what makes us look different from each other. Okay, two regions of the skin. So the epidermis. Okay, so the epidermis is this top layer here, this purple layer. Okay, it's made up of stratified squamous tissue. Okay, it's what gets sloughed off when they say you lose lots of millions of cells every day. That's your epidermis that's sloughing off. Okay, then the dermis. Okay, and the dermis has got all this good stuff in it. And then the subcutaneous layer. Okay, so that's below the skin. Sometimes they call that hypodermis. Okay, so see all these blood vessels? Okay, when you put a shot in, if you give someone a shot with a hypodermic needle or subcutaneous shot, you're going through your epidermis, the dermis, and down into this hypodermis. Let's see. The book talks about different kinds of cells that are down here. They talk about melanocytes. Well, here, we'll go here. Here it is. Okay, so the epidermis is the thin outermost layer of the skin. Okay, it's made up of epithelial, so stratified squamous. The cells that are on the outside are actually dead. Okay, and they have this protein in them called keratin, and keratin makes us waterproof. Okay, there's two kinds of cells in here that are important. One of them is Langerhans cells. So Langerhans cells are white blood cells, and they're going to help protect you from any pathogen that gets into your cell. And then there's also melanocytes, and they produce melanin. And the melanin's what makes our skin the color that it is, okay, the pigment of our skin. It has an important role. It actually protects your nucleus from light from the sun, from UV radiation. Okay, there are also some cells in our epidermis that are going to take cholesterol and make vitamin D. And vitamin D is important for how we build our bones with calcium. Okay, the dermis is the inner layer. Okay, and it's the thick layer. Okay, it has dense fibrous connective tissue. Okay, it contains elastic and collagen fibers, and it's got lots of blood vessels. It's got sensory receptors. It has sweat glands in there. The dermis is where the good stuff is. Okay, it's got the blood vessels. I want to ask you if that makes sense, but you can't tell me, so hopefully it does. The book it explains it really well. Okay. What do you need to know about skin cancer? So there's a little blurb in your book about skin cancer. Okay, so 2 of the 3 types that arise from the epidermis are basal cell carcinoma and melanoma. Okay, so basal cell carcinoma is the least deadly type, but it occurs most commonly. There's a picture in your book in figure 4.10. Melanoma, fortunately, is the least common, but it's the most deadly kind. Okay, and there's a picture of a melanoma in there. Okay, melanoma is really serious. So, what can you do to prevent skin cancer? So, they say stay out of the sun between 10 and 3. Cover yourself up with clothing, wear sunglasses, wear a hat. Use SPF of at least 15, and then they say don't use tanning beds. So tanning beds, you're just putting yourself in there, okay? All right, here's what skin cancer looks like. Okay, so this is a microscope or picture from a slide of your skin. Okay, so dermal production, that's kind of just like almost like a ridge in the dermis that's sticking up. Okay, so stem cells and melanocytes. So these are cells that are going to become squamous cells. Okay, melanocytes are going to produce melanin. Okay, these are dead, flattened ones. Okay, so basal cell carcinoma is here. Okay, and then melanoma, which it just looks bad, doesn't it? Okay. All right. What are the accessory organs of your skin and why are they important? Oops, wait a minute. I need to stop because this is going to be too long. Okay, so read over the accessory organs. So it's hair, nails, and glands. Okay, so they're important for protection. Talks about how hair grows, why it turns gray, sweat glands. Okay, sweat glands are going to help keep you cool and help regulate body temperature. And then there's also oil glands. So the oil glands are also going to be important for keeping bacteria from growing. Okay, sebum is just the oils produced around your hair. Okay, so it's what makes your hair oily.